Hello, my name is Bart de Best. Welcome to the SLA series. This is part 12, and that is about how to monitor a service. So first of all, an overview. So when you monitor a service, there may be different layers to monitor a service. So the top level is on the business service level, where in the business there are services and you are able to monitor that service for the business. One level deeper is the information system service that consists of one or more applications that you monitor. And then you have the application service monitoring, where you monitor whether a service is working or not. And the last level is a component service monitoring, where you monitor a component. So the first question is what to monitor. And then what you see is actually we would like to have a total overview of all the things that are related to our SLA. So it is not only about the service, it's about the whole service organization that you want to have a picture on the performance of that components of the whole service organization. So that includes the people, monitoring the people, do they have the capabilities to run the service? Do they have the knowledge to make sure that everything is up and running? The processes or value streams, if you want, are those processes working from the SLA norms? Are incidents indeed solved timely? Our partners, like the cloud partners, but also, of course, software suppliers that provide services for us. And this, last but not least, the technology itself. So technology helps us to build the service, and the various components of those services should be monitored in itself as well. So what is then the next topic? It is about how to monitor all those subjects, and therefore we already jumped a little bit into the overview. So there are several layers when you want to monitor a service. So let's see what are the possibilities that are found on the market to fill in this monitor overview slide. So the first one is a Servicedesk. Servicedesk is actually a very simple monitor tool. It is just an interface between the end users and the service organization. The measurement is actually done by the user. The user will call when something is not working. So in that sense, it is in a monitor system. And in the Servicedesk tool, there you find the users and you find the configuration items, as well as what is the SLA norm for the incidents to be resolved. So actually the SLA norm determines the resolution time of the incidents. There are something like 400 different tools of service desks. Most of the one that's most known, that is Topdesk. In the Netherlands it is, but also other tools in the cloud like ServiceNow, or low-end tools like Cherwell. They are found in this area. So the picture of the service desk, that you see that actually there can be many users in many places, and they use the system, and based on their experiences they will call the service desk, and the service desk will do the registration of the incidents. And based on those registration, you can have your reports. Something that's totally different is the built-in monitoring tool. The built-in monitoring tool, that is either an application that you built that has a built-in monitor tool, or it is an application that you built yourself, and you decided to have the monitoring within the application that you built yourself. So each time that you are building an application, you have to consider whether to build yourself the monitoring facility within the application, or that you apply a monitor solution that is monitoring from outside your application. There are pros and contras. So The pro is that if you write your monitor positioning yourself, you exactly know what to monitor, and you are cheaper in the end, because monitor tools comes with a price, of course. The contra is that you have to update your monitor provisioning if you want to have extra functionality. So that is something that is that you have to make a decision for. The benefit of having a built-in monitor provisioning anyhow is that you have counters that you won't find in monitor tools that are monitoring externally your application. Because when you are monitoring within your application, then you can see information flows and changes of information and the usage of the components of your application, which you can only do partly from outside. So therefore it might be very handy to make sure that you have the right choice for creating the monitor facilitating within your own application or use an external tool. Typically what you might use within the built-in monitor tool is making measurements about your value streams and the lead time, processing time, and percentage completeness and accuracy. It's very cheap to build it within a custom application, and doing that externally is not so easy. Right. We have the component-based monitoring. That is the oldest one. So it's about monitoring everything that's going on within a component. So within a component, you like a server, you have processes, and you have resources that is used. And there are many tools that helps you to get information about those components in your service. That's traditional, the way it works. The most important role of component monitoring, that is the localization of an incident. So when there's an incident that is raised by the user, you might have already information in your service desk based on the monitoring provisioning, and the monitoring provisioning can tell you where something is not working. So it speeds up the resolution time of your incident. Another one that is used very much, that is the end-user experience tool. The end-user experience tool is just a robot that simulates a user. So you can buy such services for $3 a month, $30 a month, and you will have your services monitored from 3 places around the world. Typically, it is then a web server that you want to monitor. And what you need to do is to create a transaction that will be repeated every 5 minutes or 15 minutes. And then a robot will use your website or even log in and do a transaction. Typically banks do this, updating a bank account, a dummy bank account of course, with 1 cent. Update it and decrease it. And that gives you a total view of what is the availability, but also the response time. So the transaction that the monitor provisioning will use is called a synthetic synthetic transaction. So that means it's not a real transaction, it's a transaction that is just used for the monitoring. There are some catches. You have to be careful that the monitor logs into your system. Then of course it's a vulnerability. So the security of the robot and the access rights that the robot has for your whole system should be very well reviewed, and it should not be possible to log in to your system using or misusing, in this case, and the access rights of the robot. Secondly, you have to be careful that the information that is updated or inserted to the database, that it is recognizable and that is not part of your total reporting system, because then you have an influence on your business data, and that's not allowed too. So that are important things. That there might be another aspect. in your contract with your supplier there might be a clause that it is forbidden to monitor the software with a robot, and that if you do that you will lose your license for support. Yeah, so read your contracts whether it's allowed to use those robots. The very positive thing about this robot, is that it measures your total SLA, turnaround time. So it's not just one part, one component that is measured, but the complete end-to-end time. And that's very important for your SLA reporting. But please mention in your SLA that you're using that AOX, so that everybody knows that it is not the real performance of the system that measured, but just a simulation. Of course, you have to keep in mind that the robot doesn't use all the windows, all the functionality, and that therefore the measurements are very restricted. And it's not the real world; it's a simulation of the real world. So that is very important to consider. Another one that's possible, that is the real user monitoring. And real user monitoring is actually copying all the network traffic, so it doesn't have an influence on your system performance. And it is, it makes it possible for you to see anything that's happening with the system. So you see any transaction of any user, and even navigation path of a user through your system. So it's extremely high information that you get from this system. But you have to be careful with protection of the data, like privacy. So most of the companies decide to not keep the information on a personal level, but abstract it, so that you can't see, okay, what user is doing, how many errors, typing in the records. Next, you have to label the traffic so that you recognize which application is now used. And last but not least, it is important that you realize that reuse monitoring, of course, is a lot of data. So you have to do your maintenance, but you have to also to archive the data. It is an enormous amount of data that is collected. So that is real user monitoring. And that was the last one. So with these 5, you have 5 different archetypes of doing your monitoring. And that means that you have to make choices. My advice is to use at least component monitoring, and together with an end-to-end monitoring like AUX, which is the most one that is used. You have a very good idea about your SLA norms, whether the availability is reached or not, and you have an easier resolution of your incidents because you know the location. If it is possible, you can use reuse monitoring instead of AUX, but it is much more costly. And keep in mind, it's only possible to use it on HTTP and HTML. So this is not a solution that you can use for any application. Okay, now what's next? So you have only one part to go, and that's how to report. So yes, of course, please sign up for this YouTube channel and have a look at the SLA group. And hopefully I might see you in the SLA training, or that you will have a look at the publication SLA Best Practices. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.